The rain did not fall gently that night. It came down in heavy sheets, slamming against the pavement like it was trying to wash the world clean, or drown it completely. The streetlights flickered as if they, too, were tired of watching people suffer. On the corner of Maple Street, where the city forgot itself, stood a man who had already been forgotten. Daniel Reyes tightened his grip on his daughter's hand. Lily's fingers were small, cold, and trembling, barely visible beneath the oversized sleeves of his jacket. The jacket had once been his work coat, thick, sturdy, proud. Now it was frayed at the cuffs, torn near the shoulder, and smelled faintly of rain, dust, and nights spent awake on concrete sidewalks. Daniel wrapped the coat tighter around Lily anyway. He had learned something important over the past year. You protect what matters, even if it costs you everything. The cardboard sign rested against his leg, already soggy from the rain. Single father. Anything helps. God bless. He hated the sign. Every letter felt like a confession. Every word felt like failure carved into cardboard. But Lily was hungry, and pride didn't fill stomachs. Cars passed, one after another. Headlights splashed light across Daniel's face, revealing dark circles beneath eyes that hadn't known proper sleep in months. Windshields blurred by rain hid faces that chose not to see him. Some drivers sped up, others stared straight ahead, pretending he wasn't there. Daniel didn't blame them. Once, he had been one of them. He remembered mornings when he complained about traffic, about long hours, about aching muscles after work. He remembered tossing spare change into cup holders without thinking twice. He never imagined that one day, he would be the man standing in the rain, hoping someone would look at him long enough to see he was still human. Daddy. Lily's voice was small, barely louder than the rain. Daniel knelt down immediately, ignoring the wet ground soaking through his jeans. He met her eyes, forcing warmth into his tired smile. Yes, princess. Her cheeks were pale, lips slightly blue from the cold. Her curls, once carefully brushed every morning by her mother, now clung damply to her forehead. I'm cold, she whispered. Daniel swallowed. He took off the jacket completely and wrapped it around her, even though the wind sliced into his shirt like knives. He rubbed her arms, breathing warmth onto her fingers. I know, he said softly. Just a little longer, okay. Daddy's here. She nodded, trusting him the way only a child can, without question, without doubt. That trust crushed him, because Daniel was terrified. Terrified that love might not be enough tonight. Terrified that promises were becoming lies. Terrified that one day Lily would realize he couldn't fix everything. A year ago, life had been ordinary. That was the cruelest part. Daniel used to wake up before sunrise, lace up his steel-toed boots, and kiss his wife's forehead before leaving for the construction site. Maria would groan playfully and pull the blanket over her head. Don't wake Lily, she'd whisper. I'll try, he'd smile. Weekends were loud and messy. Pancakes burned. Music played too loud. Lily danced in the living room while Maria laughed from the couch, her hand resting absent-mindedly over her heart. Then came the cough. Then the fatigue. Then the doctor visits that turned serious too quickly. Maria's illness was rare and aggressive. Treatment was expensive. Insurance covered only so much. Daniel worked overtime, double shifts, weekends, anything to keep them afloat. But sickness doesn't care how hard you work. The day Maria died, the hospital room felt too quiet. Machines stopped beeping. Nurses spoke in soft voices. Lily clutched a stuffed rabbit and asked when Mommy was coming home. Daniel didn't have an answer. Grief hollowed him out, but he kept going, for Lily. He had to. Bills piled up. Sleep became a luxury. His hands shook at work, his mind elsewhere. The accident wasn't dramatic. A slip, a fall, a fractured wrist that healed wrong. You can't work construction like this, his supervisor said, not unkindly. I'm sorry. Daniel nodded. He understood. Understanding didn't stop the eviction notice. Understanding didn't keep the lights on. Understanding didn't stop the world from moving on without him. Now here he was, soaked, cold, broke, and still holding on. A woman walked past them, heels clicking sharply against the pavement. She glanced at Lily, hesitated for half a second, then looked away and kept walking. Daniel felt something twist in his chest. He didn't want pity. He wanted dignity. He wanted one chance. A gust of wind blew rain into Lily's face. She flinched. Daniel turned his body, shielding her with his own. That was when he heard it. A sound that cut through the rain like a blade. Crying. Not the quiet sniffles of someone trying to hide their pain. This was raw, uncontrolled, broken. Daniel looked around. Across the street, beneath the awning of a closed cafe, sat a woman on the steps. Her expensive coat was soaked, her hair clinging to her face. She was bent forward, elbows on her knees, face buried in her hands as sobs shook her entire body. People walked past her too. Some slowed, some stared, none stopped. Daniel stared longer than he meant to. Something about her crying felt familiar. Too familiar. It sounded like the night he had finally broken down in the hospital parking lot after Maria died, when Lily was asleep in the backseat, and the weight of being alone finally crushed him. "Daddy," Lily asked softly, "why is that lady crying?" Daniel hesitated. He looked down at his daughter. Looked at her wide, innocent eyes. "Because sometimes children see what adults try to ignore." "I don't know," he said honestly. "But she looks like she's hurting." Lily squeezed his hand. "Like you were hurting when Mommy went to heaven." Daniel's breath caught. "Yes," he whispered. "Like that." He looked back at the woman. He had nothing to offer her. No money, no shelter, no answers. But he had one thing. He had understanding. And sometimes, that's heavier than gold. Daniel crossed the street slowly, careful not to slip on the wet pavement. Lily stayed close, her small steps matching his. When they reached the cafe steps, Daniel stopped a few feet away. "Ma'am," he said gently, keeping his voice low, respectful. "I'm sorry to bother you. I wanted to make sure you're okay." The woman flinched, startled. She looked up sharply, eyes red and swollen, mascara streaked down her cheeks. For a moment, she looked frightened, then embarrassed. "I'm fine," she said quickly, wiping her face. "I don't need anything." Daniel nodded. "I understand. I just thought, no one should cry alone in the rain." She studied him then. Really studied him. The soaked clothes. The tired eyes. Lily clinging to his side. The cardboard sign visible behind him. Her expression shifted, confusion, then something softer. "You're homeless," she said quietly. Daniel didn't correct her. "I guess so," he replied. The woman laughed suddenly, a short, broken sound that held no humor. "That's funny," she said. "I have a house, a car, more money than I know what to do with." She looked down at her shaking hands. "And tonight, I feel like I have nothing." Rain continued to fall. Two strangers stood facing each other, one with nothing on the outside, the other empty on the inside. Daniel knelt beside Lily and brushed wet curls from her face. "My name's Daniel," he said. "This is Lily." The woman hesitated, then spoke. "Claire." Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't awkward. It was heavy, like the calm before something important. And neither of them knew yet that this meeting, this moment, on a forgotten street corner, in the cold and rain, was about to change everything. Chapter 2. The rain softened, but it did not stop. It clung to the night like a reluctant goodbye, dripping from the cafe awning in slow, steady taps. The city felt quieter here, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Daniel stood with Lily beside him, uncertain whether to stay or step away. He had only meant to ask if the woman was all right. He hadn't expected conversation. He certainly hadn't expected recognition. Claire. The name hung in the air between them. She pulled her coat tighter around herself, though it was already soaked through, and let out a slow, shaky breath. Her eyes kept drifting toward Lily, toward the child's pale cheeks, her damp curls, the way she leaned into her father like the safest place in the world. "How old is she?" Claire asked quietly. 5, Daniel replied. "Just started kindergarten." Claire nodded as if that fact carried weight she couldn't quite explain. "She trusts you completely," Claire said. Daniel smiled faintly. "She doesn't have a choice," he said. "But I try to be worth it." Something in his voice, steady, unbittered, broke through the walls Claire had built around herself all day. She stood suddenly, pacing a few steps before turning back to them. Her shoes slipped slightly on the wet pavement. "I wasn't supposed to be here," she said. "I told my driver to leave. I told everyone to stop calling. I just couldn't breathe anymore." Daniel listened. He had learned that listening was sometimes the greatest gift you could give. "This cafe," Claire continued, her voice trembling, "was where my husband and I met. 20 years ago. He spilled coffee on my dress and spent the next hour apologizing." A small, painful smile crossed her face. "He died this morning," she said. The words fell flat, heavy, final. Lily squeezed Daniel's hand. "I'm sorry," Lily whispered, her voice pure and sincere. Claire froze. Then she knelt in front of Lily, rain soaking into her expensive coat without her noticing. "Thank you," Claire said softly. "That means more than you know." She looked up at Daniel, eyes shining. "He was everything," she said. "And now I don't know who I am without him." Daniel nodded slowly. "I lost my wife," he said. "A year ago." Claire inhaled sharply. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Daniel shrugged gently. "You don't ever stop missing them. But you learn how to carry the weight." Claire laughed bitterly. "I don't feel strong enough to carry anything." Daniel reached into his pocket. His fingers brushed against a crumpled napkin, a broken pencil, and the last thing he had left. A sandwich. He hesitated. Lily noticed. She looked up at him and smiled, a small, reassuring smile that told him everything. Daniel pulled out the sandwich and held it out to Claire. "This was Lily's dinner," he said. "But she already ate. You should have it." Claire stared at it, stunned. "You need this more than I do," she said. Daniel shook his head. "Pain doesn't care how much money you have." Her hands trembled as she took it. She broke down then, sobbing openly, her grief finally given permission to exist. For the first time since morning, Claire felt seen. Not as a CEO. Not as a widow with responsibilities. Just as a human being. She finished the sandwich slowly, tears dripping onto the pavement. "Why would you do that?" she asked quietly. "You barely have anything." Daniel looked at Lily. "Because I know what it's like to feel alone," he said. "And I don't want anyone else to feel that way if I can help it." Something shifted inside Claire, something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. A car pulled up nearby. Claire looked up, startled. "That's my driver," she said. She stood, wiped her face, and took out her phone. "Please don't leave yet," she said to Daniel. "Just give me a minute." She walked a short distance away, speaking urgently into the phone. Daniel didn't hear everything, but he heard words like hotel, food, room tonight. 10 minutes later, a second car arrived. A warm blanket was wrapped around Lily's shoulders. Hot soup was pressed into Daniel's hands. The driver spoke gently, respectfully, as if Daniel mattered. Claire returned, kneeling in front of Daniel. "I can't fix your life," she said. "But I can help tonight." Daniel's eyes burned. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. Claire shook her head. "You already did." That night, Lily slept in a real bed. Daniel sat awake beside her, listening to her breathe, afraid it might all disappear if he closed his eyes. But it didn't. In the days that followed, Claire kept her promise. She found Daniel a job, light work at first, within his limits. She helped him apply for assistance he didn't know existed. She arranged childcare so Lily could be safe while Daniel worked. Weeks passed. Daniel worked hard, harder than he ever had before. He showed up early, stayed late, learned everything he could. Claire watched from a distance. She saw the way he spoke to Lily with patience and love. The way Lily laughed again. The way Daniel never once asked for more than he needed. One afternoon, Claire called him into her office. "I want to offer you a permanent position," she said. "With benefits. And a raise." Daniel blinked. "Why?" Claire smiled, tears in her eyes. "Because kindness should never be wasted." Years later, Daniel would tell Lily about the night everything changed. About the rain. About the crying woman. About how love, given freely, always finds its way back. Because sometimes, kindness doesn't just return, it multiplies.